Hello and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Ashleigh Early and I'm joined this week by my temporary co-host Brian Smith.
How's it going, people?
And we are so excited this week because we have the incomparable, the still finding his lane, refusing to be defined, Travis King. Travis helps companies build communities with their people. Travis has worked with Fortune 500 brands, venture-backed technology startups, and rising entrepreneurs. He is an advocate for the truth and human connection. He's also the host of the Community Builder Show, where he uses the power of audio to help community builders learn what they need to drive meaningful impact in the world. Travis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate y'all. Thanks so much, Ashleigh. Thanks, Brian.
All right. So I want to start off with something actually we were talking about just before we hit record, which is kind of the power of human connection. And all three of us have had this kind of experiences with each other in the past week of, oh man, I'm really sorry, I forgot to get back to you. Or, oh, we should have connected ages ago. And when we were starting, I was just kind of listening fly on the wall, doing some technical troubleshooting. And Brian and Travis, you two were talking about how this is potentially, especially even more acute in the Black community. And I wonder if you guys could just talk a little bit more about what you were talking about in the pre-show.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. It's like you see people from afar. It's almost like if you're in school, right? And like you're walking through the hallways and you see someone every single day, but you never say anything to them. And then at some point in time, you're just like, wait, I should probably say something to you. But in reality, you never do that because you never get into the same situation. And so you're like, all right, I'm just going to keep looking at like passerbys, like yada, yada, yada. And then one random day, then you just like cross paths and then it's just like your friends. Like, so I think it's like I don't know. It's weird. I don't really know how to explain it, but I've been trying to be a little bit more of like, hey, I'm here. Like, let's just chat because like we need to. It's long overdue. But it's tough. Like it's really, really tough because you're trying to, think through just your normal day-to-day stuff. And then also like, you're like, all right, what is this going to be more work? Like that's how I look at it sometimes. I'm like, crap, I don't want it to be more work. Like I want it to be a seamless conversation, but like, no, it's tough. I don't really know how to deal with it sometimes, but I think it's like similar to that, like high school, like see someone in the hallway, situation.
I kind of love that visual of like LinkedIn as a high school and we scroll past and we see each other every day. But then, how often do we stop? Do we hit connect? Do we send a message and say, hey, I appreciate your content or you seem cool? Well, Travis, I think I hit you up after seeing you in a couple of happy hours and my message was something along the lines of, hi, we've been in happy hours together. We should be friends.
And I was like, I agree.
Think I was that
I was like, this is, well, right. And then I think I had said something like, oh no, we're long overdue for this. Like it was like almost 2 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I was like, but see, I actually know what it is. The reason why these things don't happen is at least my opinion, is that because of the amount of insightfulness and thoughtfulness we want to bring to the table to the people we connect with, like literally, I'm like, man, if I have to make 10 thoughtful messages in like one day and like then meaningfully connect with 10 people, it's going to take me some time. And I don't got time right now.
Forget time. I don't have the emotional energy for that. I have the emotional energy to get out of bed and get to my computer and do my job, let alone.
Right. So like the way that you respond and like engage, even someone was talking about this in the happy hour last night. And there was like the difference between a thoughtful response to a comment and an emoji. And
shout out to Sunny.
Oh yeah, Sunny. So it's like I completely feel that. Like, but sometimes I literally just respond with emojis because it just is simpler and it's faster and it like just lets that person know that I saw you and I hear you on my comment and then I keep it moving. Like I literally don't have time for, insightful responses every single comment someone makes on my posts. So
that's real. I think of it like in the NBA, right? Like people like when LeBron and RIP to Kobe or LeBron and Jordan, when they're in the same room, like do they really like these two basketball geniuses? Do they connect on a deep level? Or is it more of like a head nod, like what's up and keep it moving? Like that's how I kind of think of it, like it's tough.
Do you do that? Side note, do you do that, by the way, when you're walking down the street? If you see another Black person, do you head nod?
Every time.
All right, so it's regular because I do it here in Park Slope. Like I live in Park Slope, Brooklyn, so it's like I'm the outcast here. There aren't many black folks here in Park Slope. So when I see one, I'm like, oh, I always say something. I have my mask on, but like I see him across, and I'll be like, every time,
It's
every time.
it's a little different for me now. Like 5 years ago, when I lived in the Panhandle, basically rural Alabama, for sure. But now, like, I live in Wakanda. Like, I really do. Like, Atlanta is the black mecca. Like, so it's just you know what I mean? So, but again, goes back to what you said. We want to bring value to people. Like, if I respect Travis for the work he does, like, I know he's a solid dude. Like, I don't want to come to the table burnt out. And so it'd be interesting to figure out how we can be more strategic and just a little bit of input to make this right. It's just like you were saying before we started recording is, you know, what's new to me may not be new to somebody else, or what I know this other person may not know. It might be the first time they hear it. So that's why we need to produce that content or what have you. So like maybe we can find out a way where as black people, like we unite more. Because I think once we do that, it also helps out our companies that are asking a bunch of questions like, how do we get more black people into sales? How do we get more black people to the company? It's like, well, just look what we're doing to come together, follow that model. Like, I don't know. That's just thinking out loud.
No,
Well,
but that's good, guys.
What you're describing is literally why unions were created.
Yeah.
Because when you have minorities or people who are chronically disenfranchised, which I think we can say with a fair amount of confidence, most black sales pros in many ways are, just like any minority, but I think especially black sales pros, because I do not know of a sales team that is black dominant.
Oh,
Yeah.
I tried. I got that shit shut down.
Ooh. Let's talk about it. Talk about it.
So two things real quick. So the first thing I want to add, if we'll wrap up that content piece, and I did a great interview with Andy Paul earlier this week. It's probably going to come out in a month or so.
I just dropped that name.
One of the things that he told me, he was like, yo, you need to write a book. I was like, what? He was like, we need new perspectives in the game. And I was like, but what do you, he was like, no, like, so in my head, I'm like, wait, then I stepped back and I was like, wait, how many black sales authors exist right now? Pause.
Maybe Keenan.
Who?
Maybe Keenan.
And do you hear me? Who?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Don't let him hear you say that.
Keenan, I hope you hear this, and I'm not trying to offend. I just don't know who you are. And that's like it. This is like to my point, right? About we need just someone to write a book. Like if we just called it the Little Black Book of Sales, and then we just had stories in it, right? So like leaning into this one, working at a tech company, and you know SDR. And one of my homies was, you know, working at, I think, either ADP or like somewhere like that, where he was like, you know, crushing it, doing really, really well. And I brought him in to interview with my manager. And, you know, I was like, yo, like if me and my homie Brandon, shout out to Brandon Thompson, wherever you are at some point, if you ever hear this. I was like, if me and Brandon get on the same sales floor, it's game over. Like game over. Like there's nothing that will stop us from anything if we're on the same team. So he went into the interview process. Feedback from my manager was, he's too cocky. He's too confident. I didn't like it. I was like, but fuck you mean, bro? He's in sales. Like what? I don't understand. And then he hit me back and was like, oh man, like I thought it went well. I thought it was great, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, bro, like what? This dude is a tank. Like tank, hire him. Nah, he's not the right fit.
What?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. And now Brandon's, you know, a successful entrepreneur. He's been doing a lot of great things in the video space. Like he's an entrepreneur now. He's not in sales anymore. Like there's no getting Brandon into tech set. Like that's not a thing. So now he's an entrepreneur doing his own thing, crushing life, right? So that's just one example of look what happens when you don't open the door to great talent. He goes starts his own company.
No, I think it was 2019. I believe the largest group of entrepreneurs in the US by demographics was Black women. Like, fine, you won't give me a shot, I'll do it better than you.
But that's the annoying reality about it though, right? Like, it's the issue is the people that are in leadership positions don't understand the impacts of their little decisions that they make on people's lives.
Yeah.
So, perfect example. If you tell me that my behavior isn't acceptable, but then let little Adam, and I'm gonna say your name because I hope you hear this at some point because I never could say it. You let little Adam go ahead and again, Adam is just it's a white name, right? So you let him do what he wants in every single meeting, right? He can storm out, he can leave the meeting and say, I don't need this. The dude still has his job at the same company.
Probably been promoted.
I leave once and I say that, yeah, your sales reps shouldn't be prospecting right now. You should have your SDRs prospecting, mainly because, by the way, this is where it actually gets, when you actually know what you're doing, when you realize that your sales reps per hour output shouldn't be spent on prospecting. If you have a team of 8 SDRs that are there to do that for them, they should be setting them up with $500,000 district level meetings. And that's what the AEs should be spending their time researching and getting done. They shouldn't be spending time figuring out what school districts they need to sell into, right? So when one person doesn't get impacted or affected, when his behaviors are just kind of like erratic and whatever, right? And then when I do, and I ask a question and I'm like, bro, I disagree with your thought here. I don't think sales reps should be prospecting. I think you should let them handle their meetings and do that, right? I disagree. I walk out. That's not acceptable.
So
Bro,
let me ask.
Adam just did it.
Yeah. Yes. Just yes.
The scary.
So
go ahead, Ashleigh.
let me ask you a question. For both of you, I want both of you like pause for a second. How many people that you know directly can you think of that were in sales, were good at it, and are no longer in sales?
How many people do we know that were good at sales and no longer?
I'm literally just thinking of every entrepreneur that I know.
It's like how many? How many people are we talking about?
I don't know. Like I can at least think of like 4 or 5 that are like, all right, I can name names. I can like name the humans, but like
I'm just thinking in terms of numbers. So if each person, if each Black sales rep who is in sales knows at least 4 other people who were good at sales and are no longer in sales, largely because of the culture that we've created, we could literally have 4 times as many. We could have so much better representation, so much better caliber of people. Companies are always saying, "Oh, we can't find good talent." Yeah, because you're driving it away.
Yeah. You know, the crazy thing is, I've got that experience, and it's probably like an epiphany where one of my close friends who happen to work with me, I won't say their name for confidence reasons, but she mentioned me like,
no shade.
Yeah, like, hey, you every time you mention something that's fire, I learned so much insight. Stop downplaying your insight and what you know. And I was just like, am I doing that? But it's because I know if I come to the table super confident, which I'm a pretty confident guy because I do my research. I believe in swagger. People feel it. They can sense it. But I know from personal experience, I come in a room saying I know my stuff, I'm a threat. It's just the way it is. I don't know why that happens. I'm a threat. And 9 times out of 10, I end up like, what was the guy's name? Did you say his name or no?
Adam.
No.
Brandon.
Brandon. Yeah, I end up like Brandon, right? Like, I feel like I killed that interview. Like, what happened, right? So I've not even realizing it, I almost self-destruct. Like I give this real impactful knowledge statement about my findings, and then I almost self-destruct and make it seem like, but yeah, like I also admit I know what I'm talking about. And she had to call me out like, yo, stop doing that. Like what you're saying is fire. So I don't know, man. It's just crazy. Like you telling that story, I'm like, oh my God, like I've been that person before, and it's not got me to where I want to get to. So now I've become somebody that I'm really not. And that affects everything else, right?
So that's interesting, Brian, because I think the main piece of it, honestly, is just leaning into that swag, bro. Like, because this is what happens to me too. I think like something as simple, like I put together a podcast process, right? That I learned from someone who did a lot of research and they did all the data. I literally am like inspired by, I think it's Allie Torbin, maybe. And Allie, I'm sorry for listening to this at some point, but inspired by her. But then I lay out like my process, right? And then I showed someone and they were like, what, how did you think of this? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's a podcast interview. The only objectives of a podcast interview is to entertain, educate, and inspire. Like, that's how my brain works. So if you can then break your podcast up into educational segments, into entertaining segments, and then inspirational segments, when you go back post-production, you can literally pick emotions and then use that as micro content throughout your marketing journey. But like, again, most podcasters will just be like, I'm just going to record an episode and like, this is going to be great. And I'm like, let's just think one level deeper. And now if we already set us up for success in educational terms, inspirational terms, and entertaining terms, educational, inspiration, right? Then we're fine. But so like that just one insight that I shared was something that like blew someone's mind, right?
I'm not sitting here planning to completely redo how we structure these interviews.
Not at all.
What?
Not at all. Right,
Totally
but
not
like,
that person who just hits record and says we'll edit it out if we say fuck too many times. No.
I mean, but you know what though? I've spent over 2 years with this at this point, right? So for me, it's just like the curiosity. But the point, I'm bringing this back to what you said, Brian, about like not sharing things. Like doesn't matter anymore. I'm getting to that point to where when you start to see people, and like use Gary Vee for an example. He says the same thing over and over and over again, but no one really understands why that is. No one understands why he does that. He does it because he wants you to be thinking what he's saying so he doesn't have to say it anymore. So if his message changes, then you're going to get confused. Like, imagine this for a second. If you tell me that I need to be doing more push-ups because like that's just what's good for me, right? But like now I hear from Ashleigh, I hear from Brian that I should be doing push-ups, and for some reason I'm not listening. I'm just like I don't hear you. I know I should be doing push-ups. I know Ashleigh and Brian, want me to do well, and I know they want me to like level up. But until I hear it from Gary on stage at some random thing, I don't understand that I need to do push-ups every day. So all he does is say, do push-ups every day, 10,000 different ways to get somebody to listen. Like, could you imagine if every single time you said something, it was just a subliminal message to your underarching mission every single time? Like, think about how much in tune with yourself you have to be confident enough to say like, yeah, my only mission in life is to get everyone to be happier.
How do we do that with getting more Black people into sales?
Well,
that's a hard question. I was dropping to think about it, but you got me fired up right now. So let you know, if
how do we do that to get Black people into sales?
Like, what messaging can we create that we say, because again, there's some people talking about this. We need more diversity. We need more Black people. We need more people of color in sales. But people are talking about it. I don't think it's clicked yet.
Oh no, you know why? It's a perfect example. Yesterday in the happy hour, we were talking about accents, right? And we were talking about like how people use their words, right? And so one example of that is like, how do you coach someone who's never been taught phone etiquette? And they're going to go into a predominantly phone or message interacting with other people profession, but they don't know how to hold a conversation.
Right.
So now it's like, all right, well, how do you fix that problem? All right, well, maybe we need to make like a podcast school where we have people come on and it's just training for having conversations that people will hear. So like if you come on every week and like it's like a open learning project where every single week you bring on a new person who's never been in sales. Like maybe you go to Foot Locker or Popeyes or literally anywhere that the majority of African Americans typically work and go, hey, come on a podcast. I want to hear how you speak. I just want to hear you talk, right? you go invite 100 people who work at Foot Locker on a podcast, you go and find one sales rep.
I think you'll find a few more.
You gonna find at least one.
Yeah.
But like the issue is like no one's going to Foot Locker, right? And saying like, and the reason I thought of this is I'm probably one of the only black people that'll say basketball is not my favorite sport. I don't like basketball. It's not my jam. I literally bought my first pair of basketball shoes like a couple months ago because we had a gym in the building I lived in. So I was like, I'm gonna get ball sneaks, right? So I went to Foot Locker and I was like, why are y'all in here? You're smart as hell. Like, why? You're selling me shoes. Why don't you go sell something? Like, and she was like, oh, I didn't know that was it. I mean, obviously never went anywhere, but like, she's selling me shoes. Like, great. Like, oh, like, do you want the white pair or like, wait, she was like, well, let me back up. What are you using these for? And I was like, I play pickup basketball during the week. Okay. So like, do you typically what's your lane? Like you defense? I was like, is this a consultative sale up in Foot Locker? Like, what is this? And so like they have those skills, right? And it's almost as if like the Popeyes or the Foot Lockers or the Foot Actions, right? It's like these are all on-ramps into the next scene. So like one idea or something that we could do, and I don't know how we would execute it, or it probably would be really easy, would just be to have a series of open conversations with people that work in these retail environments and then see if they can apply or work in sales for a tech company. What would happen if you picked 100 people from Foot Locker or from Popeyes and put them through some training once a week? Ash, like what could you do with 100 people?
A lot. Honest to God, it's funny you say this because my husband is now he can literally give my pitch that I give to retail and Uber drivers and anyone who I run into the moment someone switches into consultative sales with me, I'm like, yo, you can make probably 3 times as much money as you're making right now. Like,
sounds like MLM.
Oh, it does. It totally does. And that's why like I switch it. I'm like, look, like, you know, no tea, no shade. I promise this isn't an MLM. I promise it's not a scam. Like I'm a legitimate business
I still don't
person.
trust you.
I know you don't. And here's why. Look, here's my info. Here's my website. If you're look at it. If you're interested, hit me up. If not, no skin off my back. I've delivered variations of that pitch explaining what I do. Like I'm working for major companies. This is not some weird little thing. You come in, you have to work your butt off. You're going to feel super uncomfortable, but you do this for 2 years, 2, 3, 4 years max, you're in 6 figures and you have a career, not some whatever, you know, I hate to say it but like Foot Locker's not a career. It's a job. Mm-mm. And it's the same thing. I don't think it's unique. It's not unique to the Black community, but it is especially bad. It is especially severe in the Black community. I think that people don't know that professional sales is even a career, let alone why they should choose it. So I've heard a lot of people in these interviews and in social media and stuff like that. I think something else we need to do, if I can suggest, is this idea of if I can't see it, how can I be it? We need to get these podcast interviews, these profiles, these stories off of LinkedIn. Because the Foot Locker people are not on LinkedIn. They're on Facebook. They're on TikTok. They're on, I don't even know what the kids are on these days. I'm so tech illiterate when it comes to that stuff.
That's actually interesting. Could we put Facebook ads behind people who work at Foot Locker and run a campaign where we have like Black voices inviting them into tech? Is that like a thing?
I'm sure.
Has that ever been run before?
Not to my understanding, it hasn't. But literally,
but Brian's gonna go take that to James and the team at Vendition, and they're gonna start that next week.
This is outside that. No, absolutely not. But I will say though, that's genius. 2, I was gonna say there's a bigger there's a deeper issue, right? Is where are Foot Lockers 9 times out of 10? Where are they located, right? It's the same thing. Like, do they put fast foods in? You know, I hate the word urban because really it was a way to just.
There's not a Popeyes that I found yet in Park Slope, by the way.
Exactly. And I can just tell you right now, like. So anyway, but again, you look where fast foods are compared to Whole Foods or some other health.
Where dollar stores are.
Yeah, so like. There's a whole nother conversation that we could start having about businesses of, where you're going to find people to like we're companies, right? And I know there's, business to business at the end of the day, but there's enough for everybody to eat. And so we've got to be more specific on what we do. But I do love that idea. Travis, you want to get together and figure out how we can do that? I'm down, brother. So
yeah, that's the main thing for me. It's just like how, because like I see the issues and I just see a lot of gaps and opportunity, and it just comes down to the companies and the people that make the decisions wanting to do it, and then having somebody or a team of people like us that say, hey, here's what we put together. We need some funds to really get this off the ground, because like I don't got unlimited Facebook ad campaign money to be running, inviting people into a whole new world. Like it's not there yet, right? I'm still finding and floating and figuring out like what's the lane and how you best serve people. So if I'm doing that and I'm trying to bring everybody else with me, I'm like, man, if I just told one person a day that did they know that tech sales exists and you can make $70,000 a year base salary. New York City, as an SDR, you can make anywhere from 40 to like 75, 80 grand on a base salary, which is way more than you're already making in any of the jobs that we've mentioned prior. So that's already step one. And then on top of that, you got opportunities. Like one of my companies sent me to California for a 3-day training at the company's headquarters. I had a hotel across from Alcatraz Island. I ain't never seen Alcatraz Island but off of TV shows. But I had a hotel room across and this was because of the company. Nothing, right? Flew me across the country. I'm in California, right? I'm seeing the world. Why are we not doing that? Why are we not thinking that this is a thing? And by the way, for everyone that doesn't know, and if we soundbite this up, being an SDR means literally at its simplest form, and for any salesperson that feels some type of way about what I'm going to say, I'm going to already just go like this.
Kick rocks.
Kick rocks. An SDR's job is to set meetings. Full stop. That's what you are. You are a very highly paid meeting setter. And that's how I went at looking at this, right? So wait. So now if we bring that statement into the Black community, yo, you want to get paid 50 grand and set meetings for people? Where?
Done.
Sign me up, right? And if that's the message, that will win and that will attract talent, right? The second you start talking about like the fluff that it is, right? Like you got to be great at this and that. No, can you get someone to
words that aren't even used in our community, like. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. I relate to that so much. I'll never forget somebody telling me, yeah, like, if you just call these people and convince them to get on the phone with this guy, we'll pay you $150. What?
Done.
Start next week. Like, what I got to do? Like, just let me know. That's literally how I got my first job.
So, okay, I love this. So tell me this, for any employers who are listening and stuff like that, what are the words that you would use to describe other than like, we will pay you, this is the pay, this is the range, and all you have to do is get on the phone and get people to say yes to meetings. Like how would you describe that job in terms that you think would resonate with the Black community better?
This is going to sound, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say it's going to sound stupid, but I would do some like Craigslist type shit. Like I would make it so big and bold. It's like literally I would strip the job description because most of the shit in job descriptions don't matter.
Terrible.
Horrible. So if you literally say, hey, like we need hungry, curious, coachable people who are looking to grow. That's the sentence. What will you be doing? Setting up meetings with decision makers to potentially purchase this technology.
Done.
Period. Two sentences. That's my job description. I'm done.
Okay, so we put that, so hypothetically, you're scrolling on Craigslist, you see that. I see that, my reaction is scam. Bullshit. Does it trigger the same thing for you guys?
I would say
partially.
So previous me, like before I got into this, it was all about making money at the end of the day. for me, it was all about making money, taking care of my family, taking care of my people. If there was something that solved that or something that spoke to that, right, I'm done. Sign me up. I mean, I like straight up. That's why most of my family's are dope dealers. They're entrepreneurs. They know how to make money and flip it real quick. Like, I mean, that's what every salesperson wants to do, right?
No,
Capitalize.
and brutal honesty. I mean, shout out to a few people who've been very open about this, like James Buckley. Some of the best salespeople I know did deal drugs.
Yes, absolutely.
Straight up.
Why don't we have a school? And this is something I talked about on a couple of podcasts. I literally was like, why don't we have a sales education course from drug dealers?
Literally.
People looked at me like type crazy. I was like, but no. But like, I'm being dead ass. Like, they have systems set up. They're not using technology for this shit. There's no HubSpot for the Brooklyn territory.
There's no
like
automation. They're not speeding up anything. Like,
they don't got sequences that start and automatically get sent because
personal
they got
relationships.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. There's a hierarchy, right? There's people that are supposed to do this. There's people that only do this, and there's people that only do this.
And if you step out of line, you don't do it. You don't step out of line because you just don't. And
Literally.
if you do, it's not good.
It's crazy.
But that's like the culture from the drug world that nobody talks about, and how it's so relatable to business and sales because it is a business. It just happen to be legal. So like that is its own category, right? Yeah. But the things and principles can be applied. Talking about how we're going to solve the problem, then we have to think about how we, invite people in that we might not be happy to be around.
Or I think the biggest thing is not understanding, right?
That's better. Way better than what I said.
And the hard thing is, the only reason why I said that is because I was just reading an article about, because my biggest thing is like, diverse teams win better. It's just the way it is. Like,
it's scientifically proven.
Yes.
Wazoo. Different
cultures brings different perspectives. You learn, you take a little bit of what they had, put it and make it your own. Like, that's how you grow a team. Like, that's why I think like some of the best football teams, like my football team in high school is pretty diverse. And we were good because we had some guys that just played textbook ball, and then we just had some guys that just pure athleticism. And so you put those two together compared to just a team that's fully athletic or a team that fully plays textbook ball, like we would always win, and we were good for so long. So we've got to start figuring out ways to where we communicate with people, how they communicate, not force them to understand how we communicate, if that makes sense. When I mean I'm talking about the business world.
No, I think you're spot on there. I mean, to keep going with the ball analogy, I mean, I think that immediately draws me to Nick Saban, who is arguably the greatest recruiter. And I do not know a ton about college ball.
He is.
I don't know a ton, but the little that I do know from watching my, the 30 and 30s on ESPN, like the little I know from watching the 30 for 30s is he did an incredible job creating relationships in minority communities so that it wasn't just about getting the players, but it was about getting the families involved in the program. So he was able to then go and just cherry pick from these communities that no one was talking to. And he was relating to them in a way that was not insulting or pandering. It was, this is an option, I think, from the little bit that I know.
No, I mean, you're spot on. And I was just going to add one thing. Like, people listening, like, just Google Alabama football player. Those motherfuckers look like machines.
Yeah.
So this is actually a really good analogy, because when you can take an adolescent or like an 18-year-old, well, actually by the way, full transparency, most of the people that go in Alabama that play football, they already look like grown men before they get there. So like, that's just one. So, but what he is able to do with them from the time that they get there to the time that they leave, that is remarkable, right? Like looking at all the first round draft picks that have come out of Alabama and have not turned into tragic stories. Like that's one of the things that surprised me is like the numbers. I feel like I saw this, do not quote me, I could be completely making this up. I feel like I read a story a while ago that showed that the bankruptcy rates among Alabama grads who went pro was like 3/4 lower
are 3 times lower than the NFL as a total.
What we ultimately saying for everybody listening is Black people are the shit. Like, you just need to recognize it. You need to understand it and accept it. And I don't say that in a cocky way. I say that in a way that in hopes, if you're trying to win, we're telling you, just try it. You'll find out real quick if what we're saying is true or not, right? So, yeah. I don't know if I should have said that or not, but.
No, because this is the piece of
See, and there you go. You're undermining yourself again.
All right. Sorry. Show your ass up, big fella. The issue is that because like, this is the thing. When you talk about yourself or like your own views of like, oh, we're the shit, and it's like everybody else does that. Like, at some point, we're gonna have to lean in and say, like, I'm a intellectual human being that happens to be African American, and right now the community needs me to talk about stuff. Yeah, because I have the experience to talk. Morgan says this a lot, and he shared this light on me, and it's like I have an obligation to share because I've acquired the knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the real missing link is that I've acquired, for people that are watching at some point, if this ever happens, acquired information.
Shout out to the Moleskins.
Jeez.
Acquired.
I got a couple of those. They're not that. I ain't got that many though.
So this is information acquisition. This is the game, and this is how I started the game. It's go to places and get information that you can't get from anywhere else. So where do I go? I go to a marketing agency in New York. Yeah. I go to a tech company in New York, an ed tech company after that. And after that, you go and you do some entrepreneurship, traveling and working with some smaller brands. And then you come back to New York, and then you go work with Meetup, and you get some more community information. And then you're inside of WeWork, a global giant unicorn. You get some more information. And then you get back out of there, and you go to a company like Demand Base for a little bit, right? You get some more information. And then you go to a company like Sweetfish and get some more information about media and podcasting, right? Like all of these little steps, right? Right to the high view, like, oh, you haven't stayed at a job for well, duh. Have you met me? Like, if people knew that this is why I was like actually going to get information from places and then to bring it back to have for myself so I could then do whatever I want, then it's a whole different story. Oh, like, Trav, that was smart at what you did. Like, that was a good idea. And so I'm like, oh, now it's a smart idea, but before you didn't want to hire me because you thought I didn't want to stay at your team for 2 years? Come on, son. Let's not do that.
I just say, I hope people listen are literally, I mean, I hope you just listen to all that. That's like bombs, that's gold nuggets, gems, whatever you want to call it. The fact that you don't think, and I'm talking about me, that I didn't think like the whole point of this shit is to get access and information for myself to capitalize on. That's America. Like, that's what that shit is about. So play the game. Yeah, hey, I want to be with you for 2 years. But realistically, what you're trying to do is gain enough access and information to build what you ultimately want to do. Now, if you want to sit in a company for a couple of years, that's cool. Most people in my community, that's not our vibe. We want ownership of our own stuff. Like, it's built in us from, and maybe that's what we put into job descriptions, right? Do you want to take ownership of your own day-to-day? Do you want to be able to have access to communicate with people the way you want to communicate? That would resonate with me for sure.
Yeah, and I think the other key thing there too that I didn't really think about sharing as much, but now it's just coming out. It's like, go get what you need. Doesn't matter like how you just got to go get it, right? And don't think that just because, you don't have enough years or whatever that thing is in your head, just like go get the information and know that that information is going to empower you and enable you to do things that you couldn't do before you acquired it.
That's so true. And I'll say this, like, I hear this a lot, especially when dealing with people who are negotiating. There is nothing wrong with asking for what you need. It doesn't mean the other party has to give it to you. But if they can't give you what you need, that is not a contract. That is not a negotiation. That is not a situation that you want to be in the first place. So who gives a F?
That's real.
Ask for what you need.
That's
and if
real.
they can't meet it, no worries. I'll find someone who does. I mean, I had this conversation with my husband the other day. It's the difference between, I don't know why this occurred to me, but it was like, the difference between blue collar and white collar work is white collar, they're renting your brain. Blue collar, they're renting your body. So
I want to make a meme out of that has like a brain.
So it's a transaction between you and your company, your employer, whether you're self-employed or not. It's you're renting my brain. I'll give you everything I can out of my brain. But at the same time, I'm also just know I'm going to soak up every little bit of experience and knowledge that I can to make myself a better person in exchange. So the comp is about making sure that I get financial security. The experience is about making sure I get to that next level. And in return, y'all get access to my brain. Because it's still uncomfortable to say, like, I know my shit. I'm good at this. I'm going to make you better. It's really uncomfortable. I find it horrifically uncomfortable. Like I had an evening last night, like after we got off the happy hour and stuff, I was walking my husband through a bunch of stuff. And he's like, I'm actually worried about your ego. And that was his way of like teasing me, because that's the first time he's heard me actually talk myself up for more than about 30 seconds in a long time. But like he was teasing me about it. Cause he's like, oh, you actually sound like you believe in yourself for the first time in a while. Cause I know what I'm doing, but projecting that is terrifying.
So I think this is a piece of what also Brian said earlier. I don't think it's about projecting it. I think it's about just doing it. Yeah. Because the thing is that, like, to kind of what we said earlier, like, because what you're saying is now going to hold way more weight when you come across and you're like, yeah, no, like, in order to grow, it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, right? Like, I have no idea what the process is that you're talking about, but like, this is what it is. And like, this is my process. And then you just step back.
It's the stepping back. That's the thing. That's the difference between confidence and confidence and not.
Lack of confidence.
Yeah, and that's something I see all the time with, I mean, we see it in cold calls. People who come in and they're like, oh, I've got to word vomit everything about the company so they hear everything. No. You give them, and I use this analogy all the time. We were talking about drug dealer schools. You got to give them a taste. Yeah. Get them hooked.
Yeah.
It's dating.
Then you give them a little more.
Always dating. Every new rep that I've always like trained. Like when I was at New Zella, I would like literally, because I was one of the first SDRs, and I guess we're getting back into sales for a second, but like when people came in, I was like, how do you date? Like, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a partner? And I was like, how do you make decisions on that? Like when you're swiping through, Bumble and Tinder, and like when you go to interact with these people, like what are you saying to them? And one of them was just like, I don't know, like guys just like come up, like they just, just come talk to me and say what I'm like, but you have to pick them. Like you just don't let dudes come up and then you're like, oh, like, he's nice. It's like, you have to find who you want and like someone that'll make you happy. Right. So like when you're going to go on a date with someone, like it's like, all right, that first interaction is you have to get them to respond to your first text after they swiped right. So get them to respond. Chances are, if you send something good enough and get someone to respond, you're probably going to get like a something. Just the first, get a response, right? Then once you get a response, think about, all right, well, how do I get them to actually do something now? Oh, okay. So what do they want? She wants to get promoted. And then if we put this program in, then she'll get promoted probably. Okay, great. So like my job is to get you promoted. So now it's like going from response to then figure out what they want and then figuring out how to deliver them what they want. That's it. Like sales has been so complicated and like there's so much. I'm just like, nah, like stop.
I love this too because you know what you guys know this. What the common saying is, what's the oldest profession in the world?
Sales.
Prostitution.
Oh well.
Which is
sales.
Sales.
Yeah.
So you have a thing, I want to get you to give it to me. That's sales. Whether it's time, a project, money, whatever. It's sales. Yeah. We've all been doing this. It's just the past couple hundred years, I think, that culturally it's gotten this stigma of smarmy and we're figuring it all out.
Yeah, I thought I was the only one who did this with my beard, by the way.
No.
I'd be on interviews, I'd be just chill. It's just like, it's so curly.
They're just stroking themselves, stroking the lusciousness on their chins.
It's a beautiful thing, man. Not everybody can grow a beard.
No, remember in college when you first started hitting yours and your homies still had the chin straps, and you always made fun of them for not being able to go chin hair?
Yeah.
That's one of them like flexes where I'm like, yeah, I had chin hair in college and I had a beard.
As someone who, one of the first things I noticed about my husband was his beard.
See?
When he was 19, and he has not been allowed to shave it since.
My wife's the same
I feel
way.
Shout out to anyone, by the way, if you have a beard or interested in growing a beard, I cannot recommend highly enough on behalf of your partners a product called Kalamazoo. It's by Lush. It's a scrub.
I love Lush.
Oh, I
Lush
love
is
Lush.
my jam.
Oh, it's
That's
amazing. Yeah.
But also, shout out to my
it's great
cousin.
for getting the skin underneath the beard, which is where the beard actually happens. So
That's challenging. Yeah, mine's just like one of them. Like, yeah, you do a little basic maintenance, and that's about it. I don't do too much.
yeah, he doesn't do anything. Michael doesn't do it. He just like gives it a quick scrub with the Kalamazoo, and he's fine. And it's fine. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Now that we've pivoted completely off topic, other than trying to sell some Lush stuff.
Yeah, let's get back.
We're gonna wrap this up because this has just been awesome, and otherwise we could keep going forever. We're gonna pivot now to our lightning round. So this is a series of rapid fire questions designed. Don't think about it too much. Just tell us whatever you're thinking about. Brian is ready and in the zone. I know we really got to
get one
add
of those like.
Yeah. Well, we got to add those in one of these days. All right. So first question, Travis, what is your morning routine?
Ooh, good one. So wake up, walk the dog, have my mushroom coffee, meditate on a good day, and quiet time. So airplane mode is like my beautiful morning routine.
Pick one person who had a significant impact on your career.
And Jeff Jensen, he got me my first job here in New York, introduced me to a whole lot of things that I had no idea about. And he left us a couple years ago, and just thankfully he was here to teach me so much before, he left. So.
Awesome. All right. I think this is going to be fun. What's your pump up song?
Don't let me down. Don't let me down, Travis.
This is bad. So you asked the wrong guy this question because I have like so many. I have like too many songs.
What is it today?
Dreams and Nightmares.
Let's go.
That song does something different. So yeah.
Sorry. I'm so hyped about that.
I know. I go to the next question before I start singing. Damn it.
What's one thing you wish you would have learned earlier in your career?
How to be black in tech.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, I gotta ask that. What does that mean?
That means like I had to have patience, and I had to realize that like if someone asked me to just like play with blocks for like a week, I had to go play with fucking blocks, and I couldn't always just share everything. Like if I was more quiet, I would have had and moved a lot further, faster.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. Got me emotional.
All right. To keep you big boys from crying.
Yeah.
Because it's just a beautiful thing when men cry. What's your favorite sales book?
That's hard.
You got a favorite book in general?
Honestly, one of my favorite books is The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. It's not even a sales book. So
Dude, anything can be a sales book if you find inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Firmly
I
believe
love
that
book.
Awesome. All right.
Next question. What's one way someone could have been a better ally to you?
Oh, shit, this is loaded. They could have realized that this is going to be an unedited one. They could have realized some fuck shit was happening right in front of their eyes and like stepped in and like didn't let it get to the situation that it did. Getting culturally shot in front of people, and I wish that they could have just realized that this was happening and kind of just like stepped in front of me and shielded me a little bit. It would have been great. Yeah.
What's one way you're working to be a better ally to others?
Talking more about what happened to me and like how I've moved through this world, because if I can share lessons from my mistakes and my journey with other people, hopefully they wouldn't make the same ones. So
Nice. You got a guilty pleasure after a bad day?
Oh, fuck. Guilty pleasure after a bad day.
Or just a pleasure, either one.
A pleasure. I like writing, honestly. Like actually writing things down and like getting my thoughts on paper is actually like a very guilty pleasure of mine, I guess.
Yeah, you got a burn book. I know.
I should make one of those actually.
I want to see Travis's burn book.
Oh,
All right, Travis, that is all the questions we've got. Thank you so much for coming on, bringing the fire, bringing the tea. This has been a lot of fun, and I think some brilliant ideas out of this that I feel like are going to spurn a lot of bigger discussions, which I'm very excited about. So Travis, how can people find you?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's kind of where I usually take things, or feel free to email me. I'm sure nobody actually is going to call me, but 302-494-9654 is my number. And you can also email me, travis@communitybuildershow.com. But yeah, LinkedIn. I have Instagram, but like I don't really go on there. I just do like stupid dances and stuff with my dog and girlfriend on there. But like usually LinkedIn.
I love it. All right, Travis, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, everyone, to like, subscribe, share, leave a review on your podcast catcher of choice. We're especially hoping to get some stuff on Spotify and iTunes if you listen through those. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest. We're going to be starting to get more active there. And the state of sales survey results are in. So definitely want to make sure you are subscribed to get those as soon as those are available, hopefully in early September. Thank you all for listening to another episode of The Other Side of Sales, and we will see you next time.